in July, it was announced that the European Union is currently investigating whether Ozempic, or semaglutide, which is the molecule inside Ozempic, is linked to or causing depression and suicidal thoughts in some individuals. And I, of course, had a whole pile of you reach out asking me if this was possible, or is this something that they need to be worried about. I mean, how can the blockbuster medication that we use for diabetes and weight management cause depression? And looking at a whole pile of other news stories and everything, what there seems to be is that, people are saying that their life when on Ozempic seems to be more miserable. They're showing signs and symptoms of depression, depressed mood, and for some people, they're showing signs of suicidal ideation. So if this is indeed the case and the current linkage is there, this is definitely something we don't want to screw around with. When it comes to depression, when it comes to thoughts of suicide and potential suicide attempts, we want to make sure that we are taking good care and indeed investigating if there is a linkage here. And of course, whenever something like this comes up, the big question is, well, how could this medication be leading to this? What is the mechanism? Is there something else going on here that we haven't picked up? And if so, what do we need to do about it? So Ozempic, or semaglutide, is a GLP-1 receptor agonist. And what that means is it mimics the hormone GLP-1 that our body naturally produces. Our body will produce GLP-1 in response to food coming into the system. So when you eat a meal, GLP-1 gets released from your intestines, and it goes out and it helps to regulate and give you that feeling of fullness or satiety and basically get you to stop eating. As well, it helps to regulate and manage your blood sugar levels after having a meal and bring them down to a normal level again. And so when it comes to medications like semaglutide or Ozempic, essentially they're amplifying the effects of that GLP-1 molecule and providing a greater amount of benefit in terms of satiety and decreasing how much food a person eats, as well more potency in terms of regulating and bringing blood sugars down to a normal level. And so that is why it can be used to treat diabetes and obesity. But in terms of the mechanism around potential depressive type thoughts and suicidal ideation, we really don't have any good answers and really only a whole pile of speculation. Some of the ideas that have come out is that since Ozempic or semaglutide acts within the reward centers of your brain, and that's how it partially helps to decrease your wanting of food and decreases your pleasure from food, the idea being that, well, if you're no longer getting pleasure from food or the foods that you like eating, or even just regular food in general, that definitely could have a negative effect on your mental health. Further, there is some individuals that have reported that they're not only getting no pleasure from food, they are getting no pleasure from their usual activities that they used to really enjoy. Activities that had nothing to do with eating whatsoever. And if you suddenly are not getting pleasure from your day-to-day activities and hobbies and such like that, that is definitely problematic and could again negatively affect your mood. Other ideas have had to do more with blood sugars and nutrition and stuff like that, in the sense that since Ozempic helps to regulate your blood sugar levels, brings them down to a lower level. Blood sugar, or sugar, is essentially the fuel for your body, and if you have less fuel in the system, maybe you're going to have less energy, be more tired, fatigued, and that sort of thing. Same thing with how Ozempic decreases how much an individual will eat. Well, maybe what's happening is that people are not getting an adequate amount of nutrition, and that for sure could be leading to fatigue, tiredness, and a depressed mood. However, when we take a step back and look at the broader literature when it comes to weight loss, and in particular significant amounts of weight loss, depression and suicide risk or suicidal ideation really isn't necessarily new. In fact, in this meta-analysis from 2018 here, individuals that underwent bariatric surgery, they lost a significant amount of weight, were found to have a suicide rate that was 2 times higher than BMI matched controls after the surgery. Not only that, they were found to have rates of suicide and self-harm attempts that were 4 times higher than the control group. So experiencing depression and suicidal thoughts and everything in that sense of things is definitely something that is a concern, and something that we are seeing in the broader population of individuals that are undergoing various weight loss and weight management treatments. Now, the authors of this paper highlighted a whole pile of different ideas and thoughts and mechanisms as to what could be going on here. Everything from physiological changes due to the surgery, to not properly screening for mental health conditions prior to the surgery and things like that. But one thing that they really highlighted, and I certainly want to highlight it here, is the psychosocial factor of things. In particular, the aspect of unmet expectations. You see, what has been found is that individuals that are undergoing either weight loss surgery or going on a weight loss medication, the expectations that individuals have for the amount of weight that is going to be lost tends to be much higher than the amount of weight that we clinically expect. And this is something that I see every single day in my practice. People tend to have very unrealistic expectations about not only the amount of weight that they're going to lose, but also the rate at which they're going to lose weight as well. And heck, that is what I spend a vast majority of my time doing, is helping people to manage these expectations and get more realistic in understanding of what is possible and what is not possible. And further, helping people to realize that they're their own individual and they can't compare themselves to some person on Facebook who lost 80 pounds in 1 week, because you don't know what they're doing, how they're doing it, and hey, they have an entirely different set of genetics, body, and life experiences compared to you. Now, why am I really highlighting this aspect of unmet expectations? You know, you wouldn't think that it would be all that much of a big deal, like heck, you just didn't reach the weight you wanted to reach. What's the big deal? Why would you become depressed and start having suicidal thoughts? Well, not only do unmet expectations lead to things like disappointment and frustration, but when it comes to individuals that have obesity and have spent their entire life struggling with their weight, they have a great deal of internalized weight bias. And so when an individual doesn't reach their goal weight or doesn't lose weight at the rate that they expect, they turn inwards. Instead of looking at the thing that they're doing and it not working, they turn inwards on themselves and say, well, what am I doing wrong? Why am I the problem? Why is this my fault? And unfortunately, a lot of people spend so much time obsessing about the number on the scale and ultimately obsessing about things that they can't control, like how quickly their body is going to lose fat. And so if you are constantly trying to control something that you can't control, well, you're going to lose your effing mind. And when we look at mental illness, the foundation of anxiety is essentially a feeling that you have no control. And if you constantly feel like you have no control on a situation, if you keep trying to make changes and keep trying to do these things and are not seeing any kind of results, well, eventually you're going to give up hope. Eventually you are going to feel hopeless. And what is the foundation of depression? Well, it's a loss of hope. People really begin to ask, what is the point of it all? And so what I hope this highlights is that, yeah, unmet expectations could certainly lead down the spiral of developing a mental health disorder of depression and maybe even going as far as things like suicidal ideation and potentially attempting suicide. Now, again, we don't have a lot of concrete evidence and data in this regard. I'm very excited to see what comes out of these investigations and what we can possibly tease out of it. As well, the things that I'm talking about here are partially speculation, but also from my clinical experience and what I've heard from my other colleagues. And very likely there is going to be some differences and some other factors at play. So, unfortunately, and as always, that means that we're going to need more research and more data, but as that research and data comes out, I will of course share it with all of you. In the meantime though, things that we can for sure do are, as clinicians, we can do better screening before and monitoring during treatment to ensure that our patients are continuing to be successful and aren't developing any kind of mental health concerns. As for patients that might be thinking about or are currently taking these medications, please, if you're noticing any changes in your mood or your mental health, be sure to follow up with your primary care team. As well, continue to reach out to friends, family, and the supports in your life and let them know what's going on and if you are experiencing these changes. And finally, as a society, we can continue to try and move away from the goddamn scale and the numbers that we can't control there and start to focus more on goals and things that actually are, well, going to bring health and are really what are the important things in terms of life and our well-being. So moving away from those goals of the things that you can't control and moving towards the things and the goals that you can control. Alright, that is it, and that is all, you beautiful people. I hope that provides a little bit of insight and information around kind of what might be going on here. Again, we don't have all of the answers, and more concrete data is needed. But in the meantime, be sure to stay safe. And of course, if you got some value out of this, please like, share, subscribe, and spread the news out to the world. And of course, if you have any questions, drop them down in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them. Until next time, you beautiful people, always remember that small tweaks lead to massive peaks.